Welcome back to the summit, to the Wellness Week, to the world of wellness here at the Weiner Wellness Center. Today, I'm going to finish up the last workshop of the day, and it's an important one because there's not a single person that shouldn't be affected by this, not one. You know, you could talk about lots of nutrients. You could talk about lots of foods and lots of diets. You could even talk about water until you're blue in the face. But there's one thing nobody's talking enough about, and that's oxygen. Oxygen. We take it for granted, don't we? Sure we do. You know, you wake up, you breathe. You go to sleep, you breathe. Okay? You work out, you breathe heavy. Probably wrong. Probably breathing wrong. Probably just about everybody out there is breathing wrong. But we can help you fix that. And then on top of that, we're actually actively, willingly depriving ourselves of oxygen. Willingly. Because everything is a choice, right? I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to show you how we're depriving ourselves of oxygen. I'm going to show you how you can increase oxygen in several different ways, simply, easily. And something you should be doing and every member of your family should be doing for the rest of your life. So, oxygen. What is an oxygen destroyer? Anybody know? Has anybody ever seen an oxygen destroyer? Oh, let me show you one. There you go. It's an oxygen destroyer. Did you ever see one of these? Look up there. Did you ever see an oxygen destroyer? No? Oh, come on. This was a powerful oxygen destroyer. This was used to kill this. You know who that is, right? You know who that is? It's Godzilla. The oxygen destroyer killed him. We have our own little oxygen destroyer in our life today. And it's not there to protect us against Godzilla, folks. No. No, our oxygen destroyer is, to me, it doesn't have a single good value. Okay. Now, it's still a choice. Some people are going to choose these oxygen destroyers, but that's okay. And even if you do choose it out of your own free will, I'm going to show you how you can combat the negative effects of it. But here's today's oxygen destroyer. Yeah, you know, it's a little exaggerated, but he's convinced the entire world that they need to cut off their oxygen. Isn't that amazing? You know, it started with 1 and then 2, and then I even heard 3. 3 masks. Are you kidding me? In open air. I mean, you've all seen them, right? You've all seen the people out there, you know, driving their car with one on. Nobody in it, just them, right? You've seen, Jamie said he saw somebody on a motorcycle. No helmet, but a mask.
But that guy yesterday.
Which one?
The one walking outside the building.
Yes.
On scooters.
On scooters. Yes. I think I've seen the one, though. I mean, the motorcycle's pretty bad, but what about in the ocean? I saw somebody in the ocean with a. Okay. So, you know that there's 3 things we can't live without, right? Food, water, and of course, oxygen. Food, how long can you go without it? About a week? Maybe a little longer? Water, how long can you go without water? A couple days? 3 days? How long can you go without oxygen? Like 3 minutes? 3 minutes. There's a big difference, folks. So how are we doing this? How are we depriving ourselves of oxygen? Well, number 1, every single time you wear a mask, especially outdoors, okay, alone, walking on a street, Maron, riding a bicycle, walking your dog. I did see, I think this had to be photoshopped. I don't know, but I did see somebody with their cat outside and they had a mask on the cat with the eye holes cut out. It's getting nuts. It's getting nuts. Now, look, again, I want to say this, be perfectly clear. If you want to wear one, please go right ahead. Just don't make me wear one. Don't make my kids wear one or my grandkids wear one. To me, putting masks on these kids in school for 6 to 8 hours a day is state sanctioned child abuse. I'm just going to tell it like it is. Okay, it's abuse. I mean, when you see a football game in a stadium with 110,000 people in it, nobody wearing masks, right? And then you see a classroom and they're 6 feet apart with a mask on. Come on, where is the common sense? It's gone. The collective intelligence of the human race has taken a nosedive. Now, this is interesting. You are depriving yourself of oxygen when you take a breath. You might say, how's that possible? I thought when I take a breath, I am taking in oxygen. You're depriving yourself of oxygen if you're doing several things wrong. Number one, if you're breathing through your mouth, you're depriving yourself of oxygen. Oxygen should be taken in through the nose. There are linings in the nose that take that oxygen and create nitric oxide, which we'll talk about later. Your body utilizes oxygen when you bring it in through your nose. That's what your nose is on your face for, okay? Your mouth is on your face to take in nutrients and to expel words of wisdom. But it's not to breathe with. You should be breathing through your nose. So I guess that's where the term mouth breathers come from, because they're depriving themselves of oxygen, right? And it's going to have an effect on their brain. You breathe in through your nose. If you don't, you're depriving yourself of oxygen. The other thing, before I get to the nutrients, is that we breathe wrong. We don't breathe diaphragmatically. Diaphragmatically, taking that breath deep into the lung so that it pushes on the diaphragm. And your diaphragm expands and not your chest. Oops, hit the mic, sorry. Not your chest. Okay, you go to a doctor, he says, take a deep breath, and you go, and he goes, good. No, it's not good. It's wrong. When you take a deep breath, it should expand here. And then when you exhale, it should contract. If you don't believe me, just make a note. The next time you yawn, take note of what your body does, because that's your body in control of the natural breath. You're not in control of a yawn. And you will see your diaphragm expand because your body's controlling it and it's doing the way it was mechanically designed to do. Watch a baby breathe. Watch a dog breathe. They all breathe diaphragmatically until the baby grows up and learns how to do it wrong. If you see a singer, how do you think they hold those notes? How do you think horn players can do that? Because they breathe diaphragmatically. They fill their lung from the bottom up. Okay, if you go to yoga or martial arts, you're going to learn how to do this. But you shouldn't have to go to these places to learn how to do this. Practice it on your own. One of the best ways to practice it is when you wake up and before you go to bed. Or when you're in bed, before you go to sleep. When you're in bed, it's just as you wake up. Practice breathing diaphragmatically. Start forcing yourself. Every time it hits you in the head, every time you think of it, every time you hear my voice and you say, Joe said breathe diaphragmatically, force yourself to do it. If you're sitting in your car, if you're driving, if you're watching something on TV, breathe diaphragmatically. You will increase oxygen. Oxygen stimulating nutrients. Okay, so a while back, there was this big focus on pH. Okay. And our own Dr. Tracy Straub, of course, is one of the leaders in pH balancing, as does Dr. Ashley Rossi here at the Wellness Center. She does pH balancing with her clients too. But it got kind of misconstrued. You know, it got to the point where they said, oh, cancer can't survive in an alkaline environment. Well, that's not necessarily the way it was designed. That statement was kind of paraphrased. Dr. Otto Warburg in 1932 won the Nobel Prize for medicine by discovering the cause of cancer. That statement in and of itself should make anybody out there go, what? We know the cause of cancer? Yeah. We got a Nobel Prize for medicine that was presented for that very fact. The cause of cancer is oxygen deprivation. It's not my opinion. Dr. Otto Warburg, look it up, 1932. But we've had all kinds of cancer organizations and societies and drives and you name it, and pink this and pink that all these years. What have they done? It's still going up. Cases are still going up. Deaths are still going up. It's October coming up, right? And every year when we do this fall fiesta workshop, every year I have to mention this because this pink thing is ridiculous, number one. It does nothing. The money raised hasn't done a single thing. Susan G. Komen has raised millions upon millions of dollars over the last 20 years. But breast cancer is on the rise. Deaths are on the rise. Where's that money going? It's not about pink. Right? They don't tell you about the studies that were done on CBD preventing breast cancer metastasis. CBD, a simple nutrient. They don't tell you about that. Now you don't hear Susan G. Komen talking about that or endorsing CBD. No, they want you to wear pink shoes for awareness. I think it's a disgrace. Okay, off the soapbox. What are oxygen stimulating nutrients? Well, I started out by saying the whole pH issue was misconstrued, but green leafy vegetables produce chlorophyll, which enhances oxygen. When you have a balanced alkalinity, you have good oxygen. That's where this got misconstrued. Okay, if you take in a lot of chlorophyll, you're going to have good oxygen utilization. If you have good oxygen utilization, you're going to be taking in a lot of chlorophyll, which is what is the substance in the green leafy vegetables that's going to help increase oxygen utilization in your body. So, what do? Every day, have a green drink. And it's so tasty too. Where's that from? Where's that line from? It's so tasty too. Lucy, come on. Vitamita Vegemin. You need green vegetables. Okay, now there's also another avenue to help increase oxygen through the nitric oxide connection. Beets. Okay, very popular right now. Beets are everywhere. You can get beet powders, beet products, beet capsules all over the place. Yes, but they do. Beets do help. Beet powder does help increase nitric oxide, as does the amino acids L-arginine and L-citrulline. They both will help increase nitric oxide. These are nutrients we are deprived of. I kind of covered this bullet point already, but please take the masks off your children. Let them breathe. If you do nothing else, this is so important. Okay, how about that breath? Let's talk about that breath for a second. When you breathe in, 78% of what you breathe in is nitrogen. Did you know that? And it's inert, which means it has no effect whatsoever in the body. Because when you exhale, you exhale the same amount. 78% of what you exhale is nitrogen. That means it's inert. It has no effect. It's a carrier. 21% of what you breathe in is oxygen. And only 0.04% of what you inhale in open air is carbon dioxide. Now, when you breathe out, that nitrogen goes again. You breathe out about 16% oxygen. But look at this number. You're going to when you first look at it, you're going to say, oh, well, it's not that much. 4% of what you exhale is carbon dioxide. 4%. Is that much? It is when you only breathe in 0.04%. So in simple terms, I'll do the math for you. You exhale 100 times the amount of carbon dioxide that you breathe in. 100 times. And if you do that for every breath, for hours upon end in a mask, what do you think is going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's called hypercapnia. This is carbon dioxide poisoning. And that's what's happening when you breathe constantly, hours upon hours, days, months. I mean, how long has this been going on? Do you know people that have been wearing them every day for months? Yes. Well, carbon dioxide's a poison. Carbon dioxide's a toxin. It's going to cause sickness. 100 times you exhale, 100 times the amount you breathe in. And if you breathe it back, you're breathing in 100 times more than you were designed to breathe. There's going to be complications. And then there's hypotoxic hypoxia. Don't you love these big, long words? Why can't they just say oxygen deprivation and carbon dioxide poisoning? Wouldn't that be easier? No, they got to have a big fancy term for it, right? Carbon dioxide poisoning is hypercapnia. Oxygen deprivation is hypoxia. And when you have both, you have a double-edged sword of destruction in your body. Have you ever heard of a blood oximeter? Oxygen, blood oximeter? You know what they are? Those little things you put on your finger. I was going to bring one, but my daughter took it. So it's battery operated. Put it on the tip of your finger, measures oxygen, right? It even gives you your heart rate, but it measures oxygen. Normal readings are between 95 and 100. But if you put a mask on and put this on your finger, you're going to see it start to drop. And I know because I have a video of that happening with my daughter. We did as an experiment. And she put it on her finger, and she's within seconds, it went from 97 to 95 to 94. And the longer she kept it on, it dropped once to 92. Now, if it gets below 90, you need to get a trip to the hospital. You're oxygen deprived. But you need to know. You need to know these things. They're about $40. Buy them online. You get one. You should have it on hand. These are the types of things that can really help in the time of crisis. There's another hidden cause of oxygen loss. And that's what we've been talking about a little bit here, more and more and more. And that's this miracle molecule called nitric oxide. Now, you cannot take nitric oxide. Okay, so if somebody says I have a supplement for nitric that has nitric oxide in it, they have no clue what they're talking about. It's a gas. It's not a solid. It's something your body makes. So you need to stimulate your body's production of nitric oxide. Okay, there's a difference between taking a nutrient and stimulating it to be made by your body. In this case, nitric oxide, you can stimulate the production of it through nutrient supplementation. Dr. Louis Ignaro, and another Nobel Prize for medicine. This one was in 1998, a little bit more recent. He discovered it, and he discovered it for heart health and the impact it has on vasodilation. What is that? That's the opening up of the blood vessels. And what happens when you open the blood vessels? You increase blood flow. When you increase blood flow, you increase the delivery of oxygen. You see this, how this just all connects? It's so simple. It isn't easy, but it's simple. You need to open the blood vessels, vasodilation. Now, here's the fun part. When he discovered it, guess what drug hit the marketplace after this discovery? Huh? Anybody? Well, the drug was originally meant to help cardiovascular patients increase vasodilation. But it had an interesting side effect. Anybody? If you increase vasodilation, especially in extremities, increase blood flow. Go ahead, Phil. Viagra. Of course. Erectile dysfunction. When he discovered nitric oxide and they developed a drug to increase nitric oxide for the cardiovascular patients, the side effect was erections. So they said, wow, we got a market here. And they sure did. Billion-dollar industry was built on this tiny little gas called nitric oxide. How about that? Composed of just two atoms, nitrogen and oxygen. Now, don't confuse it with N2O, which is nitrous oxide. You know what that is? Laughing gas. You go to the dentist, you get nitrous oxide. That's laughing gas. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about nitric oxide. They're two different things. But it's produced in the endothelial lining of your body. In some areas more than others. Remember when we talked about breathing in through the nose? Okay, so there's an endothelial lining in the nose that is very, very specifically oriented towards producing nitric oxide. So that's why breathing in through the nose is so important. It was designed that way. This magnificent machine has a purpose. Your nose is there for a purpose. Your mouth was never meant to breathe oxygen or breathe, period. It was not. Your nose is. The reason, you're going to produce nitric oxide. You're going to increase the blood flow. You're going to increase vasodilation. You're going to increase the delivery of oxygen. All the things we've been talking about. So what are some of the positive effects of increasing blood flow? Well, what is the number one probably drug prescribed in this country? Blood pressure, right? Everybody you talk to is on a blood pressure meds. Some are on more than one. You know, because this first one didn't work, so let's add one to it. I just love that philosophy, you know, in pharmaceutical medicine. You know, they do it with blood pressure. They do it with antidepressants, right? You've seen the commercials. If your current antidepressant isn't working, add this one to it. Makes sense to me, right? But they do it with blood pressure meds too. And guess what the adverse effects of blood pressure medications are? What's one of the major adverse effects of blood pressure medication? Anybody? Well, it's the exact opposite of the effect of the vasodilator, Viagra. The exact opposite. Blood pressure medications prevent good vasodilation, prevent the ability for men to have good, strong erections. I don't know. But they still do it, don't they? Blood pressure medications. When you increase blood flow, you won't need blood pressure medications. Now, I'm not telling anybody to get off your blood pressure meds, okay? But it's basic science. A lot of times people ask me, what should I do to help my blood pressure, regulate my blood pressure? And I say, increase blood flow. And I've actually had people say, well, gee, if I increase blood flow, doesn't that mean the blood pressure will go up? And they can almost see the line of thought there, okay? But it's the exact opposite. The easier the blood flows, the lower the pressure, or the more regular the pressure will be. When the blood can't flow and the heart has to work harder, that's when blood pressure goes up. So increasing blood flow is the simplest, easiest way to have a good, normal, regulated blood pressure. Prevent plaque buildup. So you've got blood pressure meds, and then, of course, they always will prescribe with a blood pressure med a what? Statin. Cholesterol meds, right? Yeah, you go, anybody, especially if you have blood sugar issues, their actual the formulary in these offices and hospitals, if you have blood sugar issues, you have to go on blood pressure meds and statin drugs along with a metformin. I don't know why. They don't do a thing for your sugar. They don't do a thing for insulin. But the buildup of plaque, see, when people come and say, look, I have, my cholesterol's really high. Okay, how do I lower it? And I say, well, what do let's look at this for a minute. Do you have something called genetic hypercholesterolemia? No. Well, then you're not making too much cholesterol. What do the statin drugs do? They stop the production of it. They prevent the production of it and the production of coenzyme Q10. So, but I said, well, gee, what do I do then if my blood pressure, if my cholesterol is over 300? Well, you have a different problem. It's not that you're making too much. It's that your body can't process it. The plaque buildup that we're talking about is cholesterol. That plaque buildup is a result of a vitamin deficiency and antioxidant deficiency, not the fact that you make too much cholesterol, and not because your genetics and Uncle Harry and Aunt Lou had high cholesterol. It doesn't work that way. No, because I eat shrimp all the time. No, it doesn't work that way. I eat a lot of eggs. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. Okay, the buildup of plaque due to cholesterol not being processed properly in the body is a vitamin and antioxidant deficiency. That's how we approach cholesterol. We want you to process it, get rid of it after it's done all the work that it does in your body. Plaque buildup. Okay, increased blood flow, you reduce the risk of heart disease, diabetes, stroke, all of these things. Increased blood flow. Why? Because you're increasing oxygen uptake in the body. Oxygen, strokes, all of the neurological issues we're experiencing. Oxygen. Did you ever hear the term brain dead? That's a lack of oxygen to the brain. It's the key to everything. Increasing oxygen utilization. And of course, when they stumbled upon this, they made millions, maybe billions, I don't know. But yeah, you can reverse erectile dysfunction just by increasing blood flow and oxygen delivery in the body. And you can do it naturally. You don't need drugs. Inflammation, that's an interesting positive side effect. Increased blood flow, calm inflammation. Why? Well, increased blood flow, not only do you increase oxygen uptake, but you increase nutrient uptake. And nutrients that can be anti-inflammatory in nature. The better the blood flow, the better the nutrients get into the cell. So if you're taking natural anti-inflammatories like Xflame or our newest SPM or Inflam, the better the blood flow, the better the results. It's that simple. You know, here at the Wellness Center, we have a new treatment in our therapy room. They're compression boots. They're called compression boots, and they're really cool. I mean, you put this boot on both legs, zip it up, and it's like you look like the marshmallow, Mr. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Because then what happens is it shoots air into there, and it's like having a blood pressure cup on your entire leg from your toes to your hip. What does it do? It's condensing, contracting, and opening and increasing blood flow. Now, Dr. Ross, when he brought these in, he said, when you come out of there, you feel like you have a new set of legs. And I know you're very enthusiastic, but he was right. You do. 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes in the compression boots, all of a sudden your legs feel rejuvenated, refreshed. Why? Blood flow, oxygen. It all comes back to that. There's more. Nitric oxide today, we know it's more relevant than ever. All the studies that have been done, how can you increase it? You know, the biggest, I think, today, in today's world, we're all looking to kill pathogens, right? We're all looking to kill viruses and bacteria and all those things. Well, there's actual studies that have been done, folks. Studies that have been done that are on the books. And they started way back in 2003 with SARS-CoV-1. They did experiments with nitric oxide in the treatment of patients affected by the SARS coronavirus. And they had miraculous results. Gee, did you see those studies published anywhere? No, well, you can see them here. You can see them here. Those studies were never published anywhere. Nobody knows that increasing nitric oxide helps kill invading pathogens. And it does. Viruses, bacteria, you name it, it doesn't matter. Not just the coronavirus, any virus. You know, it just burns me to the core when I see a commercial for Lysol right now. Have you seen it? Have you seen the recent commercials for Lysol? You know, a year and a half ago, when the coronavirus first hit, I saw people posting pictures of their Lysol bottle, and on it, it said, kills the coronavirus. Okay, a year and a half ago. But then they said, the powers that be said, no, they're talking about some other coronavirus. It won't kill this one. This super one. Today, there's a new commercial for Lysol. Guess what they say? Kills the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. They actually say it. It's on their bottle. It's always been on their bottle. We couldn't talk about it before. Now we can. Why? What changed? What changed? Incredible. Yes, sir. So here's some of those clinical trials, folks. Now, I printed this out, and anybody that's watching this online, you know, you'll have these. You can do screenshots of these, but I have some printouts of this as well. Here's one from George Washington University on nitric oxide in 2003 SARS-CoV-1. Actual trial. Nitric oxide plays key roles in maintaining normal vascular, regulatory, inflammatory cascades. Inflammatory cascades, that's what we're hearing about, right? Heart disease, inflammatory cascades in the lungs and the cardiovascular system. Myocarditis, that's what that is. And that's what's affecting these teenagers that are getting this shot. Acute lung injury, acute respiratory distress syndrome. This was George Washington University. This wasn't some little clinic on the South Side. This is a notable, respected university, and they did a clinical trial, and nobody knows about it because they didn't talk about it, and they're still not talking about it. They did a follow-up study, same place. And they found that they reviewed data from, look at this, between 1993 and 2020. Wouldn't that have been pretty viable information? Wouldn't that have been valuable information for us a year and a half ago to know this? Sure would have. Inhaled nitric oxide, and that's where I'm going to give you something at the end, a little bit, something new. But inhaled nitric oxide, they were able to treat respiratory illness. I don't see that happening anywhere. You see that happening anywhere? Is that in the news anywhere? No, nowhere. Durham, North Carolina. Okay, they did another one. They exposed cells infected with SARS-CoV-2 to a solution containing nitric oxide, and it killed 99.9% of it. 99.9% of it. Not only that, it didn't replicate. Couldn't replicate. It effectively wiped it out. Did you hear about this one? Anybody hear about this study? Of course not. Oh, and the healthy cells were undamaged, unlike what happens with certain drugs. The biggest is chemotherapy, of course, right? Kills cancer, kills everything else, kills every cell in your body practically. Nitric oxide doesn't. Kills the virus, not the healthy cells. Massachusetts General, another study. I'm not going to go through them all. They're all here. Okay. This one was in Sweden. In 2003, we already knew, we've known how to combat all of these viruses from day one. So, how do you get it? Got to breathe through the nose. That's the number one first thing you've got to force yourself to do. Number two, you've got to breathe diaphragmatically to get as much oxygen as possible in your body. You know, these like chemical and alcohol-based mouthwashes out there are one of the worst things you can possibly do. They actually kill the cells that help produce nitric oxide. Okay, so don't do that. Eat your green leafy vegetables. Get a green drink. Every single day you should have a green drink. If you do nothing else, it increases chlorophyll. It balances pH, and it increases oxygen utilization. Every single day, a greens drink. Salud. Circucor. Circucor has beetroot powder. It has citrulline and arginine. Three things I told you would increase nitric oxide, all proven, all in Circucor. Then there's a bonus. It has something called Activin. That is the most powerful grapeseed extract on the market. What does that do? That helps with the integrity of the lining of the vessels, the artery linings. So now you're not only going to open it up, you're going to make the walls of the artery stronger so they can increase and handle that extra blood flow. Circucor. Of course, we have our greens drink. And you know, if you don't want to get the greens powder, we have something called superfood. Now, you know what this is? This is spirulina and chlorella in a nice organic liquid herbal tincture. Okay, instead of having to make a greens drink, if you don't want to do that, 1 dropper full of this a day. This will get you the nutrients that you need for oxygen. Okay, right there, 1 little bottle. Okay, now we have to talk a little bit about DMG, right? Okay, I know Mikey's probably doing one later in the week. But we've known for years now, and nobody else is talking about it. I don't think you've heard anywhere except here on our radio shows and in our workshops the benefits of DMG dimethylglycine? If you have, I'd like to know where, because nobody is talking about it like we are. And it had 3 patents. They've expired, but still a natural nutrient with 3 patents. Come on. And one of those is for its ability to increase oxygen utilization, the very thing we're talking about. That's why we put it in so many formulations, because when you add it to other nutrients, you increase the oxygen uptake, you increase the uptake of those other nutrients. DMG, vital. And of course, we now know of the connection between nitric oxide and vitamin D. Last Wellness Week, I did an entire presentation on that. You can go back and look at it. But now they have found that the higher your serum D3 levels are, okay, then the more capable you are of producing nitric oxide, and the more capable you are of reducing a toxin called nitric peroxide. That is the double, you get a double effect, okay, from D3. When you combine D3 with nitric oxide stimulating nutrients, you get a better input, you get an improved development of nitric oxide, and you lower free radical damage as well. That's the connection. And we've been talking about D3. We've called it the alpha nutrient for a decade now. And it just never stops surprising us with what it's there to do in our body, what it can do for you. We knew how important it was, but now we know you'll make more nitric oxide, you'll improve oxygen and blood flow the higher your serum vitamin D3 levels are. It's that simple. Now, let's talk about a nebulizer. Have you heard of a nebulizer? You know what that is? A nebulizer, here it is right here on the screen. Now, it's very simple. You put a liquid formulation like hydrogen peroxide. I know Dr. Mercola talks about nebulizers all the time. That's where I got it, actually, was from him. And you get your nebulizer, you put in a solution of hydrogen peroxide, it turns it into steam, you put it over your face, over your nose, and you breathe it in. The one study that we had on the screen talked about inhaled nitric oxide therapy. Now, they weren't talking about actually inhaling nitric oxide, they were talking about stimulating it through inhalation therapy using a nebulizer with hydrogen peroxide. But what you want to do, though, is use a food grade hydrogen peroxide. Okay, food grade. And we have it here now. We've had requests for it for years. We finally got a source, and we have food grade hydrogen peroxide. And it's a 3% level. You don't even have to dilute it. Okay, I should have brought a bottle up, but we have it here in the store. Any way you can increase nitric oxide in your body, any way you can, you will increase blood flow, increase oxygen. No foreign invader lives in the presence of oxygen. No virus, no bacteria, no cancer. That's what Dr. Otto Warburg was actually stating in 1932. He didn't say cancer can't live in an alkaline environment. He said it cannot live in an oxygenated environment. But you can't have a highly oxygenated environment if your alkalinity is off. That's the connection. Okay. This nebulizer I bought online for $79. I mean, but the whole family can use it. You know, it's a great investment. The pulse oximeter, like $30, $40. These are things you should have now at home. These have become necessities. And there's our CircuitCore Power Fuel, another great choice for nitric oxide. Why? It has citrulline and arginine in it. Okay, those are two of the precursors that you need to produce nitric oxide. DMG, of course. When all else fails, breathe, breathe, breathe. Have you heard of Dr. Zach Bush? Anybody ever heard of Dr. Zach Bush? we're working on getting Dr. Zach Bush as part of our workshop team. This guy is, to me, I mean, he's impressed me more than any other doctor has in the last 10 years. He's an amazing doctor, he's a young guy, but you know, he talks about nitric oxide too, and he has what he calls a 4-minute workout designed to produce nitric oxide in your body by stimulating blood flow in the major muscle groups. It's very simple to do. You can look it up online. 4 minutes is all it takes. You can do it 2-3 times a day. But you know, there's nobody that can say they don't have 4 minutes. Okay, and you can do it at different levels, you know, and there's different ways of doing it, but it's very, very simple. It's just 4 exercises repeated on a cycle for 4 minutes. That's it. And it will actually help you improve nitric oxide. You'll feel a tingling. And if you feel a tingling, then you know that nitric oxide is being produced. Oxygen is the key. Through the nose, diaphragmatically, nitric oxide boosting exercises. An old Chinese master once told me that the secret to life was to breathe. Simple, right? Maybe not so easy sometimes, but simple. You've got to breathe and breathe properly. Increase nitric oxide, increase oxygen, increase your health. That's the bottom line. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. We've had some great presentations all day. We'll be back on Monday with another great lineup of speakers. We'll be here Monday. It starts again at 8:30 with our morning commentary. And I think we have a roundtable. Do we have a roundtable on Monday? I think, Phil? Okay, I think we do. Let me take a look here. Monday, no, we don't have a roundtable. We have a kickoff. Jeff Nisnik's coming on at 9 o'clock on Monday. Len Bransowitz, my buddy Len, Dr. Len Bransowitz at 10. Jamie will be back at 11. And we do have a roundtable at 12 on Monday. So yes, absolutely. So come on, stay tuned for that. The roundtable discussion, medical treatment in a COVID world. Wow. I think we got a couple of good roundtables coming up. I like the one on Friday. Okay. The title to that one is, "But my doctor said." Oh, we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. Okay. Roundtable on Wednesday, adverse effects of the most prescribed meds. And we gave you a couple of those today. So that's coming up this week. And that wraps it up for today. But come on down. The Wellness Center is open. It's new. It's refreshing. It's remodeled. We're all here. We're doing these live and in person, but also virtual. So we're giving you the best of both worlds. We want to see you down here. We'll be here today till 5. The rest of the week, Monday and Wednesday till 7. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday next week till 5. We hope to see you here.